Councillors and visitors, if I could also just ask you to check your mobile phones and please make sure all electronic devices are switched to silence. And welcome everybody. It's nice to see smiling faces in the gallery and to welcome those viewers who are watching the meeting via the live stream as well. If I could ask you if you could all please be upstanding, and Deputy Mayor Migdale, if you could please read out the opening prayer.
Excuse me. Almighty God, we ask you to guide us in all our discussions to show goodness, honesty, understanding and wisdom in all that we undertake to do. May we respect each other's views at all times, and we ask all of this in your name.
Amen. And Councillor Giudice, if you could please read the acknowledgement of country.
On behalf of councillors, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, on which this meeting is taking place, and show our respect for elders past, present and emerging.
Thank you. You can take your seats. Without prior approval, any recording of this meeting is prohibited. No action should be taken on any resolution of council prior to written advice from the council being received. Brings us to item 1, which is the official opening of the meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, I declare the council meeting of the 27th of February open at 6:30 p.m. Item 2, apologies, I have nil. 3, approved leave of absence, I have nil. 4, disclosure of interest. There were no disclosures at the Audit Committee meeting held on the 19th of February. There was 1 disclosure from the Committee and Resource Committee meeting held on the 20th of February, which is listed on the screen behind me, which is myself. Councillors, are there any other disclosures for this evening? None others at this time. Just keep an eye on the meeting as we go through, please. Takes us to item 5.1, which is the petition. Councillor Perkoff, I believe you have a petition you'd like to table on making crossing North Beach Road safer.
I do, Mr Mayor, thank you. The City has received the below e-petition containing 157 verified signatures. We, the undersigned, do respectfully request that the Council introduce traffic calming measures along North Beach Road between Karrinyup Road and March Street to reduce and prevent speeding, and introduce a safer pedestrian crossing for people crossing North Beach Road in the vicinity of the Gwelup Medical Centre. The current crossing is inadequate and dangerous due to the speed at which cars travel along North Beach Road and the number of hazards which exist. These include the entrance to from the medical centre, the shopping centre, the bus stop and the roundabout. Many people use this crossing, including the elderly, parents with prams and children going to and from school. It is a busy crossing used by people visiting Lake Gwelup, the medical centre, the shopping centre and the primary school.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillors, are there any unverified petitions you wish to present this evening? If not, can I have a mover and a seconder for that petition, please? Move Deputy Mayor Migdale, seconded Councillor Perkoff, and a show of hands. Thank you, that is unanimous. I will note for these votes that Councillor Ree isn't in the chamber, just so we have that on record. Item 6, responses to previous questions from members of the public taken on notice. All public question time responses from the last council meeting were published in the minutes of that meeting, which brings us to public question time. We do have a few to get through tonight. I am aware, just from a quick chat around, there's quite a few people who are asking the process. So what I will do to start public question time off is ask Mr Mitchell to come and give you a lesson. Mr Mitchell, you're going to set a good example tonight for all these people who are asking what they should do up here. I've told them Mr Mitchell's going to show you how to do a very short preamble before the question. Your name and suburb, please. Oh, the microphone, so the light on the microphone. Just your light on the microphone first. Mr Mitchell, just your light. It's the button. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yes, as I say, good evening, Mayor, councillors, council officers, fellow people in the gallery. I've got 3 questions tonight. One is relating to Scarborough, and it's just added to all the other thorns in the side of electors and councils and everybody in relation to what goes on there. So I'll start with that one, and then I've got 2 in relation to the vicinity of this building, so we know where we're at. My first one is related to a further proposed try to install boardwalk between North Scarborough and South Trigg, adjacent to the footpath. I want to draw your attention to the regurgitated, this old chestnut, merely only 18 months old when it was last rejected out of hand. There is no benefit for anybody, a waste of money, an eyesore in the making, with built form, structure out of place and unnecessary visual pollution. It would be more benefit to put in the gully of the sand dunes between West Coast Highway and the beach ecological built form of compacted crushed limestone and white cement path, picnic nodes with shaded barbecue seating, shaded children's playground, robust irrigated grass cover and coastal trees placed at intervals with access to the ocean. And I say Rottnest type pines. West Coast Drive has only a footpath, and the same amount of traffic there are no problems with that footpath and ocean views. As with its continuation from Waterman to the City of Joondalup pathway. As it has only been 18 months since this proposal was rejected last, I ask the proposal be rejected again, the development of picnic areas be considered in place of the proposal.
Thank you for those comments, Mr Mitchell. Look, this is very early stages. There is no plans to construct a boardwalk at this stage. Council will take this to a workshop and have discussions, and the next stage, if it was to progress at all, would be to examine those ecological impacts and also to go out to the community for consultation to see if there was support.
Okay, thank you. Just as a footnote to that, a good example is a node picnic area between Florida Beach and Melrose Beach, south of Mandurah. If something like that could be established, it would be beneficial to the beach experience. Drive in and have a look if you're going past sometime.
Thank you. Your next question, Mr Mitchell.
Yeah. Now this question relates to what I've been asking for quite a time, is some type of birth, what you might say, of a performance art and museum for the City of Stirling. And I've been informed that, well, it's not in the near distant future, but I've also been told that...
I just need, Mr Mitchell, we do have lots of questions tonight, so if I can ask you to get to your questions, please.
I've also been told that there's other government bodies and probably a high school going around here. So what I've asked for is, further to my questioning regarding this Stirling City plan for the future, in particular the area adjacent to the car park, recently mention has been made that the City of Stirling was looking into artificial surf wave complex, then a soccer cricket pitch for a soccer team as a home ground. In between this, I have asked for a report on the progress of the City of Stirling project. I've been particularly anxious to find a way of developing a performing arts and city museum like very many others in the City of Stirling, as a projected cost could be, well, I put a figure of 2.7 million to 5.2 million and fielded along with state and government contributions. The site for such a building, it would be ideal adjacent to the council car park and could be used contra Funding for such a building could be shared with the state and federal governments. It is projected that more educational facilities will be included in and around the captive area of the City of Stirling development. The uses are manifold, and one particular one is entertainment for elderly in retirement villages around the Stirling area. Entertainment, largely performing arts by schools and many playgroups, shows by travelling performers over short durations and interlocked with similar venues, which is Albany, Mandurah, the small shows, 2 or 3 days. Yeah. Overall, a property of medium size to cater for such people and events would be a wise investment to lobby government starting now. Could this type of venture ground work be started now for and into the future? Broach the matters with governments now, state and federal now, create interest and publicity.
Thank you, Mr Mitchell. Mr Quirk, can you provide some comment on that, please?
Thank you for the question, Mr Mitchell. So look, in relation to community infrastructure for Stirling City Centre, the City continues to progress forward planning in collaboration with both the state and federal local government, whilst a range of community infrastructure options are being considered. At this stage, it is unlikely to include a performing arts centre. The cost of such a project would certainly far exceed $2.7 to $5.2 million. Yeah. Indeed, the proposed City of Joondalup performing arts facility was projected to cost $100 million, hence it hasn't progressed. You are right, a more effective approach may indeed to be entering into a shared use arrangement should the Department of Education identify the need for a high school within Stirling City Centre. So that is certainly something that the City will pursue. And indeed, the City is looking at such a shared use arrangement with the Department of Education over with Mount Lawley High School should they pick up the Whopper assets when ECU moves into the City. I can also confirm that the City is seeking to establish a fit-for-purpose local performance space as part of the Hamersley Community Hub, and Council will have a proposal to proceed with that as part of next year's budget considerations.
Thank you, Mr Mitchell. Number 3.
Thank you, Mr Quirk. My third question is, has anything started in relation to planting trees in the entry courtyard outside here? I note at the entry to this chamber, in a covered way, there is a 3-phase power outlet that would be available to supply power for any future lighting or other types of display. Can we be informed and put in the picture regarding this project currently?
Thank you. And Council are about to enter their budget process for this coming financial year, and that will form part of it. And as soon as that is approved, it should be completed in the next financial year. And we'll keep you updated, Mr Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Peter Furman. So it's already turned on as you come up. All you need to do is just start with your name and your suburb and then your question.
Peter Furman. I live at 83 West Coast Drive in Waterman's Bay in the corner of Alvera Street. And I want to talk about the proposed crosswalks and reduced speed limit. I've lived there for over 20 odd years, and I think I'm well qualified to comment on some of the near misses and accidents on that area, as it's 5 o'clock is wine o'clock on the veranda and 10 a.m. is morning tea time. So I see a lot of what goes along West Coast Drive. We've got an increased volume of traffic with population growth, especially on the weekends, and many of the paths coming down onto West Coast Drive, I witness many young families, elderly, trying to get across there, and it's quite hazardous. I have had some children run over in front of my house by people speeding and turning up to Elvira Street. So I would ask that, have the council officers done any modelling to ascertain the additional time it would take cars to get from Beach Road up to Karrinyup Road if we reduce this to 40 k's, of which I'm a strong supporter of? And I would also ask, does the City also have any statistics on accidents along West Coast Drive that could support the proposal to introduce these much needed crosswalks, because I can't believe that a strip that carries so much traffic and has so many people around, we do not have one crosswalk in that area.
Thank you,
That's
Mr.
two
Furman. I'll
questions.
get you some answers to those. Mr. Guillemot? If you just wait there, if you just
Thank
for a
you for the
minute.
question through you, Mr. Mayor. The first part, I guess the impact on time, we have done, I guess, some preliminary estimations of what it would take. So travelling unimpeded from one end of the road to the other would take, compared from 50 kilometres an hour to 40 kilometres an hour, would only require an additional 60 seconds of travel. And that's if you're unimpeded. And as we know, generally there are a lot of times where you need to slow down anyway for roundabouts and for people turning off. So at the very worst, the additional time from one end to the other would be 60 seconds. In terms of the crash data, we have looked at that. In the last 5-year period on record from one end of Karrinyup Road to the other within the City of Stirling, there's been 112 crashes, a mix of mid-block and intersection crashes, and there's been there's 30 of those crashes were serious injury, so they involved hospitalisation or medical treatment.
Thank you for those responses. And I can attest to the 60. So I've tried several times to see the difference, and it was between about 60 and a minute and 10. Des Alack, please, if you'd like to come up. And if you state your name and your suburb, and then your question.
Yes, name's Des Alich, suburb is Trigg. I'd like to speak on or ask a question on the agenda item, the same as the previous gentleman did, about the crossings. And I'll put my question first, and then I'll just make a couple of points if I could. And the question is, what will the council do to protect pedestrians if the motion fails? So something has to happen, in my opinion. So if it was to fail, what's your alternative? A couple of points I'd like to make is that I have been a resident for 30 plus years, always on the east side of West Coast Drive, and I've been crossing it with more and more hazards in all those years. So it's become quite difficult to get across, and you are at the mercy of the driver of the car, and I'm a driver of a car too, so I know that sort of pedestrians get out in front of me sometimes. I don't even know that's happening. I'm also, in my case, I'm pretty unique because I've also been a victim of being hit in trying to cross a road. So, and that was a badly designed intersection crossing, and I spent nearly a year sort of recovering. Part of that in intensive care. So when I go down there now to try and cross that road, all I think about is this car's going to come at me, and it's quite stressful to get across. And we have no rights whatsoever as pedestrians. The full rights are with the drivers of the vehicle. So like the previous speaker, I'm very much in support of these crossings going in place.
And thank you for that. And the item is obviously on the agenda this evening. I can't give you an answer on what will happen if it doesn't pass, but council will certainly take your comments into consideration. Anne-Marie Ellich, please. Your name and suburb to start.
Good evening, Anne-Marie Alich, Trigg. As with Des, I've lived in King Albert Road for over 30 years, so we're quite aware of all the traffic problems that do occur along there, and we're really concerned for the safety of people who visit the precinct on weekends, plus all the local people that use that thoroughfare. The question I would like to ask is there a plan to place bollards on Marmion Avenue from Scarborough north to Trigg to protect pedestrians from traffic? Thank you.
Sorry, I'm not sure if I understand that question. So place bollards?
On Marmion Avenue, north from Scarborough to South Trigg, where pedestrians are on Marmion Avenue.
On the cycleway?
On the cycleway and the walkway. Right. It's a very, very busy pedestrian and cycle walkway with no protection from traffic.
Thank you for that question. And look, the simple answer is no, there are no current plans. We do from time to time look at safety modifications on the shared use pedestrian pathway. As we do with any of those, they're balanced carefully with the impacts and the unintended consequences of also putting those bollards in with other, people being able to access and get past them as well. But we'll certainly can consider that and maybe get in contact through the Coastal Ward councillors and we can consider that. Sam Sparta, please. As you come up, I'll just rule to extend question time. We've exceeded the 15 minutes, so we will rule to extend question time. Your name and suburb to start.
Sam Sparta from North Beach. Thank you, Mr Mayor, councillors and officers. I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to address council. I'd like to express my support for the proposed change of the speed and the pedestrian crossings on West Coast Drive. I have two questions particularly. One, has council considered or done traffic studies affecting the side roads in regards to rat lines if these changes are implemented? And
So let's get you an answer to that one first. Mr Guillemot.
Thank you for the question through you, Mr Mayor. We do regular traffic count surveys on all of the side roads, so we would have that data, and as part of our normal process, if this treatment was implemented, we'd be able to do further counts so we can continue to monitor those roads to make sure there's no diversion of traffic.
Thank you.
and my second question is that has Main Roads taken this change on board, and is it progressing?
Thank you.
Sorry, may
No,
I
no,
continue?
that's-
And as a GP, I had to attend to a chap that came off his scooter he should have been on the footpath, but he was on the road. So this is scooter versus car event, and he was quite bloodied. So this is a real concern to me in regards to pedestrian safety and the community generally. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your question. Look, Main Roads, the engineering officers of the City of Stirling have worked closely with Main Roads over a period of time on this proposal. And as is suggested in the report, Main Roads are supportive of the officer's recommendation, both in the traffic calming with the speed humps and also with the speed reduction down to 40 kilometres an hour. Sam Trimboli. Thank you. Your name and suburb to start.
My name is Sam Trimboli from Shoal Avenue, North Beach. First of all, good evening to you, Mr Mayor, all the lovely councillors, ladies and gentlemen, and these people behind us as well. I feel very privileged to be here to talk to you and ask a couple questions. I'll do it properly. Mr Mayor and councillors, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to address you. My name is Sam Trimboli. I have been a ratepayer for 50 years and a local resident of Shoal Avenue for 15 years. My question is, through you, Mr Mayor, has Main Roads already approved this concept?
Thank you. I'll get Mr Guillemot to provide some further advice on that.
Thank you for the question. Yes, through you, Mr Mayor, Main Roads have approved it. As you indicated previously, we've been working with them very closely to make sure that everything that we do complies with their standards, and they are supportive of the treatments, both the raised plateaus and the reduced speed zone.
While supporting the reduction of the speed limit from 50 to 40 and the construction of the raised plateau and marked pedestrians, what is the time frame of the installation?
Mr Guillemot.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor, subject to approval by Council, we will list funding on next financial year's annual budget. Projects like this obviously need a fair amount of funding behind them, so we need to make sure that we budget it appropriately. So next financial year.
Mayor and councillors, I am in support of the proposed measures as I have seen firsthand, and speeding and dangerous road behaviour of the few that wreck for the many. In saying that, it is for the benefit of the community, and I mean the community, all of us. There here and elsewhere, and it is for the safety of all of us.
Thank you, Mr. Trimble. We'll take that as a statement. Arnold Davies, would you like to come up? Welcome back, Mr. Davies.
Thank you, sir. My name's Arnold Davies of Karrinyup. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councillors, staff and members of the gallery. Will the City of Stirling provide a pedestrian crosswalk in Francis Avenue at the pedestrian entrance to the shopping centre? Currently, there is no lighting on the west side of Francis Avenue in that area, and it's quite a dangerous situation there.
Thank you. Mr. Guillemot?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The city is aware of difficulties for pedestrians crossing the road. We're working on a number of measures. We've already been able to implement, with Main Roads approval, a lower speed zone along the 3 roads surrounding the shopping centre, the 3 local roads surrounding the shopping centre. And we are still in discussions with Main Roads regarding potential pedestrian crossings. However, that's still at the early stage at this stage.
So yes, it is being considered, Mr. Davies.
I had a close miss with a pedestrian there about 3 weeks ago, and he just got to a footpath on the west side, and all I'd seen was his white legs. He had dark clothes on, and I had glasses on. I was all right, but it's quite a dangerous situation. People also leave that shopping centre, and there's some shrubs there, and they walk out onto the road from those shrubs, and they're very hard to see. The lighting on the east side doesn't protrude onto the roadway enough to let the motorists see what's going on. Even with the 40-kilometre speed limit there, it's not good enough.
No, thank you for that. We'll certainly take that into consideration. We'll check it out for you, Mr. Davies, but the lighting would certainly be upgraded along with any pedestrian crossing upgrades.
When will the City of Stirling ensure that BGC replace the trees that they pulled out in August 2 years ago to enable them to facilitate the construction of those apartments? They finished the building. They were able to put their shrubs in on the footpath, but they haven't got near putting the trees back.
Thank you. Ms. Shears?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Davies, we will have to take that information that you've provided us tonight and get an answer back to you. I'm understanding that that development is completed now, so those trees should be reinstated shortly.
So we'll get a response to you in writing on that one, Mr. Davies.
Thank you. And I'd like to congratulate Mr. Roddick on his appointment as the Chief Executive Officer.
Mr. Hadley? Okay, we'll come back to him. Peter Ellis?
Peter Ellis in Corrine. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councillors, staff and fellow ratepayers. Happy New Year. I'm back. Can you please supply me with the regulations that enable the staff to change the wording in my question at the council meeting from naming a council employee to listing his council employment position, and then to list the change of words that I've not spoken, which means inaccurate words are recorded in the minutes? Oh, sorry. May I have the questions taken on notice, please? Thank you.
Yes, I will take your questions on notice and respond to you in writing, Mr. Ellis.
Thank you. Why is the council trying to sell this Karrinyup Shopping Centre and meeting room to the Karrinyup Shopping Centre? I didn't spell that right. When the building and the land are owned by the Stirling Council and for the continuing benefit of all ratepayers.
Thank you. And there is no plan to currently sell that site. We're certainly just exploring all options, but we'll respond to you in writing with that one, Mr. Ellis.
Thank you very much. And how the council has received written confirmation that the minutes of the previous council meeting are an accurate record of the meeting before that vote on confirming that the records are a correct record.
Thank you. We'll respond to you in writing, Mr. Ellis.
Thank you very much. Councillors?
We've missed you, Mr. Ellis. Mr. Hadley, you're ready.
Good evening all, Roland Hadley, Woodlands. I'm speaking on behalf of Janita Cottam of Kareen. First question, has everything with this Chinese trackless tram wreck been cancelled and severed, and confirm that there are no contracts or agreements remaining for the City of Stirling? Also, who paid for this 3.8 million tram to arrive and depart?
Thank you for that question. There were no contracts with the Chinese for the tram, and the Chinese paid for their tram, Mr. Hadley.
Thank you. Question 2. The Mayor stated that the trackless tram report...
Sorry, Mr. Hadley, can I get you to either just move a bit closer or it's just trouble to hear you? Thanks.
Thank you. The Mayor stated that the trackless tram report would be available in late November. It is now nearly March 2024. Why does it take so long to inform what ratepayers already know, that it has been a great waste of time, money and city resources? A complete shambles. Have you any more pipe dreams lined up, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Hadley. I'm as frustrated that we haven't got the report as you are.
Really? Question 3. We continually read in every City of Stirling publication and hear from the Mayor that tourists seek out Scarborough as a major destination. Does it, or will it ever occur to the Mayor, that visitors to WA may visit Albany, Margaret River, Fremantle, Cottesloe Beach, City and Floreat beaches, Scarborough, Hillary's, Marina, Mullaloo, etc., etc.? What different unique attractions does Scarborough offer? Harbour and jetty walks, vast array of shops, high-quality restaurants, cinema, theatre, ferry trips, ample parking and a safe, secure environment, or just an illuminated clock tower costing $90,000.
Thank you for that statement rather than a question. Mr. Hadley, I don't know what to say to that. Look, in the eye of the beholder, if you don't think it's an iconic tourist destination, you're welcome to stay in Woodlands. Now, have you got questions of your own as well?
I have indeed, thank you. Question 1. In the minutes of the last council meeting, a sentence spoken by the Mayor, Irwin, stated that the trackless tram project was a big success. Our fellow ratepayers want to see a complete, comprehensive list of all expenditure relating to this trackless tram trial, this trackless tram project, and this trackless tram symposium. This information is all recorded, and we do not want to wait for another 5 months before this information is made published. Can we have this information now? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hadley. We'll respond to you in writing.
Thank you. Question 2. Concerning the complaint that you made against Councillor Ray, Mayor Irwin, you stated on...
I'm going to rule that out of order. I have not made a complaint about Councillor Ree. If you've got a question, you may ask it.
I will continue on. You stated on behalf of the city, I strongly object to this message and had written to Councillor Ray to request that she reconsiders and apologise and or remove these posts while the city follows any due process. What due process was to be followed by the city? What did you, Mr. Mayor Irwin, strongly object to in the post, for which Councillor Ray should apologise? Please advise and make public your reply.
Thank you. I'll respond to you in writing, Mr. Hadley.
Thank you. Question 3. Mayor Irwin, you also stated in the media that the post Councillor Ray forwarded requires the city to respond to confirm to the community what the official position is, and that we reject the views entirely. A very confused statement, we might add. The post dealt with illegal immigration and those who migrate to Australia to live here, but refuse to accept Australian values and laws. Mayor Irwin, he stated that the city was an official position, the city has an official position on these issues, so please provide a copy of the city's policies on these two matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Hadley. Happy to. We'll provide you with a copy of our current values and statements. Paul Lynch, please. Mr Lynch, your name and suburb.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, councillors. Paul Lynch, Hillary's, also a ratepayer in Scarborough and long-time member at the Trick Surf Life Saving Club. Hence my many travels up and down the road. I'm here to ask questions in support of those crossings, which many others before me have asked.
Mr Lynch, do you think Scarborough is an iconic world-class tourist destination?
Look, that's a question without notice, Mark, but I'm happy to say that I think Trigg certainly fulfils that requirement.
Your first question, Mr Lynch.
And I thank you for your question. I would like to ask the councillors and the Mayor if you are aware of the behaviour of drivers. A lot of people have talked about or asked questions around what's going on, but the big issue is, are you aware in your studies of the actual driver behaviour? I drive this strip quite a lot every week during peak and off-peak, and what I've noted is that I get greatly concerned when I see the amount of people stranded on the islands and on the edges. So I stop, and I've questioned some other people at the club who also stop, but the vast majority of traffic does not, and it's quite worrying. So I'm just wondering if the council in its investigations looked at actual driver behaviour. That is what's causing, I think, a lot of angst amongst residents and people.
And thank you for that question. Look, I can't speak on behalf of all council, but I can tell you that the benefit of having council is they actually do genuinely represent the community, because that's where they come from. And I know that one of their biggest things they deal with on a regular basis in all areas of the city is community concerns about driver behaviour, and they're very aware of how that impacts. They also take any traffic calming, like is proposed on the agenda tonight, seriously, because they also know the ongoing impacts and the unintended consequences of doing those. So they do look at all those things when they take into consideration items like this.
Thank you. Second question is again an unusual one, and it's around the change from 50 down to 40. 50 kilometres an hour, of course, is standard in most streets, and I'm sure you've probably seen that most people don't do 50. However, West Coast Drive is unique in that it has certain visual amenity. So what you have with drivers doing 50, and the questions around, again, has it been considered the impact of the visual amenity of drivers looking at the ocean? Looks fantastic on days like today. There's visual amenity, there's some lovely houses along there, lots getting built. Visual amenity on the sidewalk, of course. So generally speaking, anyone who's driving that strip can often, and I'm guilty of it, is also looking around. So if you're doing 50 and you're in a traffic stream doing 50 and you're not actually really focusing that much on the road, is this city aware that this is also the nature of the risk, is that it actually does have terrific visual amenity, and that unless you drop it to 40, you're just really sustaining a much higher risk?
Thank you for that question. And yes, council is aware. Council debated this at committee, and council is aware that the logic behind reducing the speed from 50 to 40 is to increase safety along that stretch.
Thank you, councillors.
Thank you, Mr Lynch. That's the last one I have, unless I've missed anyone. If I haven't missed any, I have missed someone. Yeah, if you'd like to come forward. I'm sorry if I've missed your name.
My name is Bill Kinniston. I live in Waterman's Bay on West Coast Drive.
Apologies, I went past your name. I don't know how I did that.
Okay. The first thing is West Coast Drive is touted as a scenic drive, and I think it is. But on the west side, there are a lot of poles with underground power where pedestrians in the main walk. And on the, if you like, the east side or where the residential side of the drive, there are, instead of underground power, we have overground, above ground. We have the most horrible set of poles. One of them is a classic at the corner of Hale Street, and they're all been very severely reinforced over the years with metal poles. So if anyone hits the ones on the west side, the poles will probably fall over. I think they'd be collapsible type poles. If you hit them on the other one, you're going to be dead. And what has amazed me over the period of time, the ratepayers pay for the poles that are above ground on our side, and I guess the City of Stirling pay for the ones on the other side across the board. It is a danger, and I agree with everyone about the speed limit. A second question I'd like to ask is, how many speed offences have occurred in the last 12 months or 24 months? Because I have never, ever, ever seen a police camera or I've seen police drive along from time to time, but very rarely have I seen anyone, except they do get outside of Sacred Heart and they do breathalyzer tests regularly on about 10 o'clock on Wednesdays and Fridays mornings when I'm going to the RSL meetings. And it holds up the traffic. You want to see where traffic's held up, just watch that. It's fantastic. So, and it does, the other thing that does a little bit concern me about the pedestrian crossing, and I agree with the previous speaker, people are looking at the bird life and they're looking at the beaches as they drive along and perhaps not concentrating. And my understanding is the moment a person now puts their foot on a pedestrian crossing, whether it's on the left-hand side or the right-hand side if you're driving south, you are meant to stop. And I'm a little bit concerned that these people are going to stop and someone's going to run up the back of them. And I hope that's been considered. And the other thing is, without doubt, it's already happening, and I do it, people duck up the side streets. And I think people have got to be very mindful of that. It's happening now. The traffic, I've been there 8 years, has probably quadrupled since I've been there, and I agree something's got to be done. I hope you're doing the right thing, and I would love to see some type of safety conscious all the way along. Police, more policing than has occurred, more signs, and finally, perhaps looking at underground power and making it safer. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'll give you a quick, while you're there, I'll give you a quick answer to all of those. So the first one is underground power. Look, underground power is seen as a community asset. So it has very much been up till recently, something where the state government puts out different settings where you can apply to have underground power for a suburb. And previously it was bid on a process where whoever paid more, so it set basically different areas of the city up to bid against each other and different local governments to bid against each other. And it meant residents paid a lot of money for it. The new process is effectively looking at the condition of the whole service, and there will be, not too far away, a plan released to underground most of metropolitan Perth over the next number of years. Local governments like the City of Stirling will have the opportunity to fast track that, and so we'll be working very closely with Western Power on that to try to rapidly underground the rest of the City of Stirling, because we do understand that's part of it. In terms of the pedestrian crossings and people having to stop, yes, we're very aware of those other issues that come with it. That's why this council is currently considering the officer's recommendation that they be raised platforms so that people do get used to that environment where they have to slow down. There's significant signage that also goes up with those, and obviously that's why Main Roads has recommended and certainly supported the speed reduction to go along with those raised platforms. As for the rat running, look, it occurs in every suburb, and I'm sure I don't need to tell you this, but one of the things with that whole environment along that Trigg coastline is the fact that it's not a grid pattern, and that if people go up those side streets, they don't tend to go back up because you get tied up in a few knots of left and right. So that does limit it compared to having those straight through roads.
Thank you.
Thank you. That is the last question now, I believe. So I will move on, and I'll move on to item 8, which is applications for leave of absence. Councillors, are there any applications for leave of absence? No indication. I'll go on to 9, confirmation of minutes. Councillors, can I have a mover and a seconder to accept the minutes of the meeting of council held on the 13th of February? Moved Councillor Christovich, seconded Councillor Hatton. And a show of hands, councillors, just for those. That is unanimous. I think, sorry, I'll just show of hands then. Yep, that is unanimous. Thanks, councillors. Announcements by the presiding member, I have nil. 11, unresolved business, I have nil. Now I'll move on to item 12, which is the reports and recommendations from committee. We'll start with the Audit Committee. Councillors, are there any of these that you wish to pull out from Audit Committee? Councillor Ree?
Yes, please. Could I bring out 12.1A1 and 12.1A2? I won't be mentioning anything that is confidential, just general questions.
Yep. So A1 and IA2, is that right?
Yes, please.
Sorry, I just need to check the second one. I might have said that wrong. So 12.1 IA2 or A2?
12.1A1 on page 12.
Yep.
12.11A2 on page 22, please.
Yep, thanks. All right, councillors, no other indication, so we'll start off with that one, 12.1A1, city leave liability. Councillor Lagan, as chair of the committee.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor, I move the officer's recommendation on page 12.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Migdale. Thank you. Councillor Ree, you oppose or do you just have a question? I'll go with your question if there's no debate.
Thank you. I'm just a bit concerned with a couple of questions. One, are we actually saying to people that they are, the employees, that they're forced to have their leave to reduce our leave liability as part of the council resolution to reduce it? Are we forcing staff?
No. Ms Hawkins?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thanks, Councillor Ree. No, we're certainly, as the Mayor said there, no, we're certainly working with employees. So it's only excessive leave. So someone that has annual leave over 8 weeks, and equally where someone hasn't booked long service leave where it's been accrued for past 6 months. But we are certainly working with the employees to book that leave and work with them to do so. Ultimately, the city can direct, but that's not what we're doing. We are working with employees to make those plans.
Another question?
Thank you. On page 170, we're talking about the leave liability. We're seeing, the leave liability of which part of that is reduced and the labour costs have gone down. However, when you look at 170, the increase in and agency costs for waste and fleet and finance services is huge. So the question is, with these increase in agency costs, knowing that some of these people, once under the agreement, after 12 months they can become permanent, are any of these people subjected to any leave liability?
Ms Hawkins?
Thank you, through the Mayor. Councillor Ree, the agency costs are purely through agents, so it's not employees of the city. So no, there's no leave liability for those.
Take your questions. Right, there is no one opposed, so I will put that item 12.1A1, city leave liability update. I'll just put that to the vote, councillors. Thank you, that's unanimous. I'll now go to 12.1 IA2, community engagement order on 22. Councillor Lagan, as chair of the committee.
Thank you, through you, Mr Mayor. I move the recommendation on page 22 and I note it was voted 10-0.
Thank you. And is there a seconder for this motion? Deputy Mayor Migdale. Thank you. Councillor Ree, you opposed or you just got a question?
I've got a question, if I may, please. It's with regard to the community internal audit of what we get audited and what we don't get audited. Is there a system, a process, a staging where the communities are decided who gets audited? I just find it's a bit odd.
So I can answer that, Councillor Ree. There is an internal audit plan which comes to the audit committee, and the audit committee see the whole internal audit plan. So it's endorsed and it has a plan of when all the internal audits. So we can get a copy to you.
One of the things I was concerned about is things like the men's shed and the women's shed, where the comment was that the women's shed is completed. I fail to understand how one room is considered a women's shed project is completed, and the amount of resources going in didn't make quite sense. So I have made that comment before, so
Thanks,
I'll
councillor,
leave
but I don't
it
think that
where
has
it is.
anything to do with an audit plan. So I'm happy, if it's about that, then I'm sure you can take that offline with the director. So if there's no one opposed, I'll put that item, 12.1 IA2. And that is unanimous. Thank you, councillors. There's no other items that are pulled out, so I'll ask you, councillor Lagan, if you'd like to move the balance of the reports from the Audit Committee.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'll move the balance of reports.
There a seconder for that? Councillor Perkov, and I'll put the balance of reports to the vote. Thank you, and that is unanimous. Members of the gallery and those watching at home, the remainder of those Audit Committee recommendations have now been adopted by exception resolution. We'll now move on to those items from the Community and Resource Committee meetings. Item 12.2 F3 was referred to Council, so will obviously be pulled out. Also, as noted on the Council running sheets, there are alt recs from councillors for item 12.2 ES1 and for 12.2 F3, so those will both be pulled out. Are there any other items you wish to pull out? Councillor Lagan?
Yes, can I pull out 12.2 P3 on page 162?
Thank you. So we've got ES1, we've got P3 and we've got F3. Are there any others? Councillor Ree?
Yes, please. Could I have 12.2 P2 on page 150, please?
Yes. Another indication, then we'll go back to the start and we'll start with 12.2 ES1, the pedestrian safety along West Coast Drive, the much anticipated item on tonight's agenda. Councillor Perkov, as chair of the committee, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move the committee's recommendation on page 114, but I do note that Councillor Kosticevic does have a alt rec, so I'd like to hand over to him.
You can't do that, you just move the motion.
Oh, okay. But I'll move the motion, yep.
Thank you. Okay. So we've moved the committee's recommendation on that one. Councillor Kristovic, would you like to... we'll do this as, is there someone who's seconded it? Councillor Ree, can I get you to turn your mic off for a minute, please? Councillor Proud, if you're happy to second that. And then we'll do Councillor Kristovic, if you just oppose it, then we'll do it that way. Thanks. So I'll go back to you, Councillor Perkov.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've got nothing to add at this time.
Thank you. Councillor Proud has nothing either. So it's over to you, Councillor Kristovic.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Look, obviously I'm proposing an alt rec as opposed to the one that was passed by the committee, and it's up on the board there, and I'll just read it out for everybody. And it says that Council approves the installation of raised formalised pedestrian crossings at 3 locations along West Coast Drive at the following locations: adjacent to Elsie Street, Waterman's Bay, adjacent to Saunders Street, North Beach, and adjacent to Benyon Street, Trigg. And number 2, subject to a successful review of the first 3 pedestrian crossing, the Council considers the installation of raised formalised pedestrian crossings at a further 2 locations along West Coast Drive in the 2025-26 budget process at the following locations: adjacent to the North Beach Road, North Beach, and B, adjacent to Lynn Street, Trigg. And 3, that Council endorses a reduction in the speed limit to 40 kilometres along West Coast Drive between Karrinyup Road and Beach Road.
So how we'll deal with this is just to let you know. So we'll deal with it as a foreshadow. So it's still your debate.
Yep.
We'll deal with it as a foreshadowed motion. So the committee recommendation will go to council as a vote, which is to do all 5 up front. If that is lost, then the foreshadowed motion is effectively the same motion, but it splits it into 2 parts.
Mr Mayor, I'm happy to accept these alt recs, please.
So I am not giving you the choice.
Yeah.
That's nice try. So I'll just clarify if you're not sure. So the problem I have is it's not really an amendment. It is a different motion. And with council process, committee did unanimously support to do all 5. So I think the fair way to do it, and it's very obvious that there's obviously one that does them all together, and then the second one does exactly the same thing, same outcome, but splits it up. So Mr. Councillor Kristovic, getting a bit familiar there. Councillor Kristovic, if you'd like to stand up. So it's still your debate, so we're effectively debating the same thing, but you can explain why you'd like to split it up.
Yeah, okay. Obviously, as we discussed at committee, over many years, there's been a request for the community to improve the safety along West Coast Drive. And, part of that is about safe pedestrian crossings. And, there was officers' report, community consultation, thousands of letters, etc. I'm not going to go through all of that, I suppose. The reason why I'm putting up an alt-rec at the moment is because I don't want to supersize it straight away. I'd rather, I'm driving up and down there every day and doing a bit of an analysis of traffic and pedestrians and everything else myself. And I'm just thinking it would be prudent for the council to pick these 3 locations in the first instance, reduce the speed limit, assess how that's going, and then review whether or not we need additional crossings, the 2 additional crossings at a future time once we know how this has gone in itself. So I think that's a smarter way for council to go. It doesn't take away from the intent of the officer's recommendation or the community consultation, but it just allows us to be more careful about what we're doing, that's all.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this? Councillor Migdale?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that we are not voting on the alt-rec. We're voting on the
If they're not aware, they haven't listened to me, councillor.
Well, I just want to check and make sure, Mr. Mayor.
I will double check again before we vote.
Okay, so I do agree with Councillor Kristicevich, because I think this staggered approach is the best way to move forward. There's no question that it's necessary. It's just about how we do it, not whether we do it.
Councillor Papard?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'll be agreeing with this motion. Let's have a more staged approach. Let us fill an immediate need in the community and fulfil their desires, which were clearly heard tonight, and let's reassess in a year or 2 perhaps and see if the other...
That's not the alt-rec though. I think it's... I just want to be clear. I'm pretty sure I read it right, but I'm pretty sure the staged approach wasn't to wait a year or 2.
Okay.
Let's just so you know, it was to do this and then put it either at a budget review.
Okay, I understand. Yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Review.
Point of order. Just to review the what's happened and how effective it's been, and then consider putting it in the 25-26 budget if it's proved to be successful and there's a community need for 2 more crossings.
Continue if you want to.
No, that was all. I didn't want to labour the point, but yes, I'm in support of the alternative recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors? Councillor Reid?
Yes, thank you. I think it's a good idea to ask back to the community. I'd just like to know what the staff think about this versus the alternative rec, to make sure we know the difference going forward. Also, plus it's a change in the, well, it's not a change in money. It should actually be back exactly the same money, shouldn't it?
I think the advice from officers was it was the same. But Mr. Guillemot?
Through Mr. Mayor, strictly from an engineering perspective, I couldn't recommend anything other than doing all 5 at the same time, and the reason being is that compared to normal traffic management treatments, they are actually spaced quite a lot more than what we would normally do. Normally, we'd space them at 100 to 200 spacings, and I'm not suggesting we do that, but the first 4 are spaced at 400 to 500 metre spacing, and then the last one, obviously, because of the distance to the next commercial centre, is about 1.5 kilometres. So my only concern is that by only doing 3 in the first instance, we're not going to get the full benefit of the speed reduction. But at the end of the day, I guess if all 5 are implemented, that's the important part. But strictly from an engineering and a road safety perspective, my recommendation would be to do all 5 straight away.
And just, Mr. Guillemot, on the cost, I think Councillor Reid has had a question regarding the cost difference. Or is it similar?
It would be effectively 3/5 of the total cost. So that would have to obviously be budgeted for the following financial year.
Thank you. Councillor Reid?
Yeah, thank you for those comments. I just want to know if the three are only done, because the actual alternative recommendation doesn't actually say when the next lot are going to be done. So if you're saying from an engineering perspective that it's actually more logical to do the 5 and at one hit to see how everything goes, that if the implications are, if we only do 3, and I'm presuming you're, I might be wrong, the 3 are the top 3? Yep. No.
I think
So if it's not doing
it was
the-
leaving out North Beach and Lynn Street.
That's right. So it's skipping those 2. So the implications from a traffic management point of view, having said that these 5 will slow down the traffic, these 5 will allow pedestrian access. If you only had 3 of the 5, what is the impact then on the road and the pedestrians? Is it significant enough to say, why bother doing this? If we don't go all the way, then there's no point. So we're either going all the way or we're not doing it. So you weigh up, are 3 gonna be significant change? Is it better to go to 5 and then you see the whole change, and then you can do a review in, say, 2 years through traffic management? Just making sure that the difference is really applicable, and also what the people wanted, because having walked down there myself on a regular basis, yes, I think I could get killed at each one of those. So I'd like the opinion of the staff, please.
Thank you. I can probably answer that. The reality is that's a decision you've got to make tonight, Councillor Ree. The officers certainly, along with the councillors, did consult at all of those locations. Mr. Guillemot?
Yeah, I guess to respond to Councillor Ree's question, if only 3 were done, there you would obviously get the maximum benefit for those 3 locations and the approaches to those 3 locations. It does leave out 2 other locations that were strongly supported by the community, but yeah, so I guess that'll be the residual impact. It won't say that it wouldn't be correct to say that only doing 3 out of 5 will have no benefit. Obviously, it will still have some significant benefit. It's just, I guess, trying to maximise that benefit along the entire length of road.
Thank you. Councillor Hatton?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I just wanted to say that pedestrian safety versus unintended consequences is my issue. I'm all for the pedestrian safety, the original, I'd be all for that, but I am more for the alternative for the reason that the unintended consequences on the access to Marmion Avenue off Beach Road, mainly off Beach Road, turning south. I brought that up at committee. So I look forward to seeding more ideas on improvement of unintended consequences with more infrastructure in the future. But I do support the alternative.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to debate this? Councillor Pratt, you got a question? Have you? I think you've already debated, haven't you? No? I wrote your name down and I
You're
missed
thinking
you.
of last week.
I missed you.
Mr. Mayor, look, when this was first floated earlier this afternoon and removing 2, I thought it's not actually bad, then get a review. However, re-looking at the report and hearing the officer, we're actually compromising the integrity of what we're supposed to be doing, of making pedestrian accessibility better, crossing the road over a longer stage period that engineers who are qualified in this have staged the pedestrian crossings and what's actually required with the reduction in speed. So I think it just might be a bit of a failing to only do the 3. I think after it's reviewed then you might get, it'd be a skewed result because then you'd want to do 5 to see how they work together. I think this is a little bit of a waste. Also got to remember, the consultation, this has majority community support, whether they're at Sorrento or they're locals or they're further south. The people that responded actually did so in the majority for the 5 with the decrease in speed. So I'm going to be supporting this motion with the 5.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to debate this item? If not, I'll go to Councillor Perkoff to close debate.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. We spent over an hour last week discussing this. I'm going to support the ward councillors and the other conversations which I've had since last week. So, yeah, that's about it, Mr. Mayor. I think it's probably a more prudent way to approach this. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. So that closes debate on the committee recommendation. The committee recommendation is that all 5 of these crosswalks are put in. So that's the vote we are going to have now. If you want all 5 to occur now, you vote yes. If you don't want them all to occur together, you vote no, and then the foreshadowed motion comes up. Over to you, councillors. Thank you. That motion is lost with 4, Councillor Crowdo, Proud, Ree and myself, and against Councillors Dudek, Ferrante, Judici, Hatton, Kristovich, Lagan, Migdale, Olo, Papard, Perkoff and Thornton. We now go to the foreshadowed motion, which is the one that Councillor Kristovich foreshadowed, and it is for us to do the raised pedestrian crossings at the 3 locations, being Elsie, Saunders and Benyon, and then to review those and to do the other 2 at a later stage. Are we all clear on that? So I will now, I don't think we need to debate that again. I think we're all clear on that. So I will put that one now. We need a seconder for the motion. I can see a little mouse circling around second. Good work. Seconded by Councillor Papard. So move Councillor Kristovich, seconded Councillor Papard, and I'll put that foreshadowed motion to the vote. Thank you. And that motion is carried with Councillor Criado voting against and all other councillors voting for. So for those members of the gallery, if we just confused you, that there are 3 crosswalks going in and then they'll be reviewed and the other 2 will go in at a later stage pending their success. Councillors, we'll now go on to item 12.2 P2, Sustainable Energy Action Plan, apologies. Been pulled out by Councillor Ree. Councillor Perkoff as chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to move the officer's recommendation. Committee recommendation.
Yeah, thank you.
On page 150.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the committee recommendation? Thank you. Councillor Olo? Yep, happy to second. Councillor Ree, have you got a question on this or are you opposed? Just a question? I'll allow the question.
Thank you. With the new buildings, do we have a lighting policy, sustainability policy that we're actually going to incorporate into some of the lighting policy in the new building? So then when we put up new lights, which cost the clubs a lot of money, they've got to raise often $70,000 or more, and we've got to put money in. Are we having a lighting policy that can mirror, can that be aligned with this sustainability energy policy, such as, which when we go to the next item on 162, which is with regard to the battery trial. They all should be sort of together, I feel, and they just don't seem to be together. Is there any reason why we're not incorporating them all in together?
Mr.
So we've got a
Murphy?
best practice?
Mr. Murphy?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So, Councillor is correct. If we do a new build, we've got a sustainable design policy, and we would use the most sustainable form of lighting, which is, currently LED, etc. When we do a major refurb of a building, again, if there's an opportunity to change the lighting, we upgrade to the most modern standard and the most sustainable and efficient, which is LED at the moment.
And time switches and...
Yeah, sorry, to add that, yeah, time switches so they're not left on, etc. So we will do that as a matter of course for a refurb, a major refurb of a building.
Yeah, I do recall that for North Beach, I think it was. No, with the lighting, when we go on to LED lighting and the floodlights.
I think that was the answer, is yes, it is.
Mr. Mayor, again, if we do a floodlighting project, we'll do to the best standard, and that's LED with controllers, etc. So we do that for outdoor lighting as well as indoor.
Could I ask later then for having a comment, please, in the back, or just to me, whatever, with regard to when we dance junior football club, with regard to that lighting?
Yep.
Thank you.
Happy to.
And also, with regard to page 151 about the corporate electric vehicle charging infrastructure feasibility study, why do we need a study? We had a report years ago done. We've already got charging down the basement. I don't understand why we'd have a study. It's already a report done ages ago.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that is correct. The feasibility study is done. Sorry if it's written a bit, it's unclear, but it's done, and we've used that information to help us with our charging infrastructure. That feasibility study is complete.
So that was an update. The Sustainability Energy Action Plan was a progress update. Yes.
And we're doing, if we're going to have an update to saying about our if we undertook an electric charging infrastructure feasibility study, which we did years ago, and if we've done another one, it's an update, where is it? Should we not write our little update of what we've come up with? No?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So it's more recent than you describe. It's in the last few years. What it did was it looked at our buildings, it looked at the energy supply, the electricity supply, and give us some information on how many chargers that we could fit to each building. It talks about the administration centre and the operations centre. As you probably know, we've been purchasing electric vehicles where possible, and we need charging infrastructure. So that feasibility study told us essentially how much infrastructure we could fit on the current supply. And if you look in the basement, you'll see that we've done that. So the feasibility study is complete, and we've acted upon that feasibility study. It's an operational thing, it's not a big grand strategy. It's an operational review of the energy supply.
Councillor?
Through you, it was about 10 years ago that we did a report on it to allow people, the members of the public, the staff, anybody else, they wanted to, outside in the car park, having the infrastructure for people to come in, charge here, and then go. I thought that was the intent of this. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I thought the intent was. And as I said, we did a report 10 years ago, wasn't agreed with at that time, but I thought that was a follow-on from the update.
Yes, so it's currently out for EOI, I believe. Mr. Murphy?
So, through you, Mr. Mayor, so public charging infrastructure was part of the review. If you look in our car park in the visitors' bays, we have a number of chargers that are available to the public. So we've done some of that, with more to come. And there is an EOI about a wider network of public infrastructure charging that's currently underway. So we'll be looking to expand it beyond this building.
So as part of the update, are we actually saying somewhere out there that you can charge in here now? I just feel that there should be more info in here, people reading it and saying, okay, you're doing an update. Does that mean we still can charge it? I mean, we've got a huge car park, people driving past, they can't see that you can charge. So it's just that I would have thought there would be more information to tell the people what's going on this time. That's all.
Thank you. And I can attest to the new solar panels going on the roof, because I've been listening to the drills all day. If there's no one opposed to Sustainable Energy Action Plan, 12.2 P2, I will put it to the vote. That is unanimous, thank you. 12.2 P3, Community Centres Batteries. Councillor Lagan has pulled that out. Councillor Perkoff is chair of the committee.
Can I defer that to Councillor Lagan?
No, you may not.
I've got to move it again.
So, Councillor, we sit through a night of committee. You as chair, to get a committee recommendation, it goes to council.
It does. And I would like to move the committee's recommendation on page 162, Mr.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the committee recommendation? Councillor Lagan, you second. I'm assuming with some questions or comment? Yes. And is there anyone opposed to it? Okay. I think he's just doing it so you can make comment. Is it? Okay, we'll do it. Councillor Ferrandi is opposed.
Question, if
Yes.
I may.
No, that's all right. Councillor Perkoff, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I shall sit down and listen to the councillors.
Thank you. Councillor Lagan.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm fully supportive of the trial, and I'll just note that it is a trial. I'll also note that there were 2 votes against at committee. I did speak about it at committee, and we did receive, in response to a question I asked at that committee, an update on the number of solar panels the city has installed in the last 10 years, and that exceeds 2,000 panels, both at this building and a number of community buildings. To put it bluntly, we've done the solar thing, we're doing it very well. We need to move to the next step, is to do a trial on a battery to find out, can we use our solar systems to give us back power in our community buildings. Now, at committee, I talked about the Community Energy Upgrades Fund program, which is a federal government program. We can apply for the CEUF grants program. We've missed out on the first round, but we can apply for the second. And this is a federal government program that provides up to $2.5 million to be awarded to help local governments make their facilities more energy efficient. This trial is a good trial. I think it's necessary because that's the next phase of what we're doing with solar energy and with battery back to our own buildings. And although there appears to be a cost time period that's quite long, I did some figures during the last 2 days myself, and with power rising by 2.5% in Western Australia every year, the actual payback period of, I think it was 19 years, is actually half of that. If we were to just continue to pay power prices at 2.5% increase every year, it pays for itself almost. If we get the funding from the federal government, this trial will actually not be cost to the city or to the ratepayers. Maybe at the end of the trial we say this one doesn't work, we want to look at a different system, but I think we need to start somewhere now. This is a great start point and I commend the report.
Thank you. Councillor Ferrante.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My question is a question to the officers. Are they aware of the process to apply for the funding on these solar batteries?
Mr Murphy.
Through you, Mr Mayor, yes, we are. There's a number of grants and we are aware of the processes and we're always searching for grants that will fit our planned works.
Second question, if I may, Mr Mayor. The costings are done on a 15-year period. Why do we work on a 15-year period when solar cells on average last the batteries only last on 10 years?
Mr Murphy.
From recollection, I'm looking from the report, I think the payback period was based on the life time of the battery. That was my understanding.
The life of the battery, not the life of the
battery.
cells.
Yeah, not the life of the cell.
Yeah, that's correct. That was the question I asked, Mr Mayor. Why is it a 15-year life based on the batteries when they only last 10?
I think Mr Murphy's advice was they last 15. That's based on the life of the battery.
Yeah, through Mr Mayor, I think there's a warranty of 10, but the anticipated life is beyond that, and that's what's been used in the report.
Mr Mayor, all I ask is that the report be correct and up to date, and obviously before it comes back, that the funding has been advised, and whether we're successful or not, before we start this process. If we wouldn't mind to save ratepayers money, thank you.
I'm just not sure what you're asking, Councillor Ferrante, because this is it. So it's listing.
Yeah, it's being considered, right? So when the report does come back,
I don't think there's a future report. It's just listed as part of the
budget.
When
it does come back to council for approval, is that better wording?
Yeah, but I just want to be clear. I think what you're voting for tonight is that you are approving the battery trial. So you are. Yeah, it'll be considered on the budget, but you're approving it now. So there's no report coming back for you to do a further approval.
Yeah, no, I clearly understand that. It's more the budget item as it's being considered.
Just say before the budget. Good, thanks. Just want to make sure that you weren't expecting another councillor report. Councillor Kristovich?
Yeah, I just want to ask a question on the back of Councillor Lagan. So he indicated that there is federal government funding available for this particular project. Can I just get confirmation that there is federal government funding for this project and that we can apply for it and that we are going to apply for it?
Mr Murphy?
So through you, Mr Mayor, I think the Councillor Lagan talked about the Community Energy Upgrade Fund grant. We have looked into that grant. This project is potentially something that could be funded by that grant. However, our understanding is we can only apply for one project, and there are potentially bigger projects, higher value projects that we may choose to apply for the grant rather than this project. So I couldn't give a fixed guarantee that number one, that we would use this project as something we would apply for, and the second, that we would get funding for whatever we applied for. So,
can I just do a follow-up? Sorry, can I just do a follow-up question? Because I believe the funding is specific community battery funding. It is, and this is the only battery we have on the scope. So, what would be the other battery we would prefer to? Why wouldn't we use this one?
So, through you, Chair, my understanding was the Community Energy Upgrade Grant. No, it doesn't mention battery. Is that correct? The upgrade grant. So that is wider than batteries.
Sorry,
I think it's a different grant. Yeah, let's get some clarification. Councillor Lagan.
So the fund actually reads for batteries for local government buildings. So it's funding for batteries.
So through Mr Mayor, so there is another form of grant funding for buildings, as Councillor Lagan suggests. We did make an application one of those grants for a different building and we were unsuccessful. So if there's another round, we could potentially apply again, but we did already apply for a grant to put a battery in one of our libraries and it was unsuccessful.
Councillor Christovich?
So I'm just wondering, on the back of Councillor Lagan's reassurances that there is funding available, that we couldn't actually do a slight amendment to the motion to say subject to a successful grant from the federal government, and just add that into the motion itself.
I understand your intent. I don't think it's needed, as you're effectively, as been pointed out with Councillor Ferrandi, this goes to the budget and planning process. So you will have knowledge of that before that process, and you can also choose not to consider this, or you can consider it and not approve it if there's no federal funding available.
But I suppose it just reassures me that that will be highlighted then at that point in time. I hear what you're saying, but then I probably would have forgotten about this particular point. And
Sure, we can test it with Councillor Perkoff and Councillor Lagan if you want to put subject to federal funding or something in there as an addition. That would be, I'll go to the mover, Councillor Perkoff.
Happy to take one on board, Mr. Mayor.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. Can I also add that subject to federal funding, whether it's successful or not successful?
I don't know if that's a point of order, but look, it sounded impressive, but yeah. So subject. Well, so what Councillor Ferrante is asking is, Councillor Christovich, would you like to amend your amendment?
No, look, I'm happy just to leave it at that for now. And as you said,
I think the intent is there. Let's check if
intent.
Is Councillor Lagan happy with that as an amendment as well?
Can you just add, after funding, just put application, because it's a grant application process?
Subject. Yeah, it's just as a reminder, you just want it in there.
And just also to clarify on that, the first round has closed.
So we'll take that as just part of the substantive now.
We need to apply in the next round.
Thank you. All right, Councillor Ree.
Yes, thank you. With regard to the battery, there is a separate funding for the floodlights, for lighting itself, with regard to the batteries.
This is specifically about storage batteries. This isn't anything about lighting.
Storage batteries and floodlighting. So
it's not about
a
floodlighting.
building. No, what I'm saying is that there is a funding. Can we sit there and look at that one? Because there is funding for different realms of energy, and some are building, some are lighting, some are existing, some are new. It just depends.
And I understand that, Councillor Reid, but all those different pockets of funding are utilised by the city. Mr Quirk constantly uses those for the lighting upgrades for all of our clubs, etc. But this one is specifically about the federal funding for community batteries.
Point. We should be using some batteries for some of this floodlighting, because it's costing a lot of money, and when you actually get an upgrade to LED lighting, it actually is more electricity, so it's more cost to the clubs, which are already done out.
And that's why the city's got this moving forward. All right, councillors, is there anyone else who'd like to debate the battery trial? If not, I'll go back to the mover, Councillor Perkoff. If you'd like to close the debate.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, and thank you to the councillors. Yep, I'm happy with this.
Thank you.
And nothing further to add.
So I will now, it's put it to the vote. Move Councillor Perkoff, seconded Councillor Lagan. Thank you. And that motion is carried with all councillors voting for, the Mayor voting against. So I'll now go to item 12.2 F3. This was referred to council, if you recall, so there has been no committee recommendations. So stand down, Councillor Perkoff. You can see the finger moving.
I was going to ask for your guidance, Mr Mayor, on this one.
So this one, there, you are welcome to. There is an alternative recommendation. There's some other alternative recommendations there. Is there a mover of a motion? That's the best way to go. Deputy Mayor, let's go with you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm happy to move the committee recommendation.
So there isn't a committee recommendation. So
Oh, well, the recommendation on the board, please.
okay. Okay, so that's the original one before committee. Yep. Okay, councillors, is there a seconder for that one? Councillor Proud. Is there anyone opposed? Councillor Dudek. Thank you.
I'd be happy to support with an amendment?
I think because there's a couple of different alt recs that'll probably come out. So let's just go. So we'll go.
Point of clarification, apologies. I just realised that, to the best of my knowledge, we did amend number 1 and 2 at committee the other night. Was that not correct? Yes, as is on the screen.
That one.
Yes.
I think it was
Yes.
discussed, but
Yes,
the
and
wording
that-
hadn't come out.
Right, and so that is what I was wishing to move this evening.
All right. So let's start with that one.
Yeah.
Happy to do that one. You've seconded. Councillor Dudak has an amendment. So what we'll do is we'll go the mover and second, then come to your amendment, and then do it that way. Well, we have to. You can't have a motion that just gets getting changed by every person on council. So
Okay, I'll reserve.
yeah. So this is the recommendation currently before us. Councillor Proud, have you got anything to add?
Well, just that the alt-rec responds to what the debate was at committee. So it's been added in here by Corporate Services Director, thank you, and that's what we've incorporated here.
Right. Now what we'll do is I'll go to you, Councillor Dudak. And Councillor Dudak, for those who were at committee, heard the debate around this, there is an amendment. I'll ask you to speak first. Just say you want to put your amendment up and then we'll get it up.
No, thank you. I'm happy to support this, provided that this amendment can go through. I likely have talked to most of you about it, and we talked to committee about it as well. Just adding a point number 6, that council notes the allowance for the Linksite system as outlined in the 23-24 mid-year budget review documents, and prior to implementing, calls for a separate report to be presented to a council meeting, providing detail on the cameras to be installed, risk analysis on how data will be stored/accessed, and the cost of the system for all of the city's aquatic facilities for a final decision on whether to proceed.
Thank you. And what I'll do is ask you, is there a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Lagan is happy to accept that. What I will do is, I don't know if we need to debate this item again wholly, but I think it's probably it is the safest way to go. Because there'll probably be some people who are opposed to it. There we go, that'll be easy. Councillor Migdale is opposed to it. So what I'll do is, we're just going to deal with this amendment so Councillor Dudak can explain why he wants this amendment in there. And then we'll either work out if it's part of the overall. So, over to you. This is your chance.
No worries, thanks. Yeah, firstly, I just want to say I don't think there's any malicious intent on part of the City of Stirling staff by proposing the system. I think there's genuine concern for safety. I do think it's concerning that a system like this, where you're installing a lot of cameras around an aquatic facility, has come through a mid-year budget review and isn't put before council separately. I think there are some concerns that are worthy of debate by this council that we can then decide whether or not to proceed once we've got a fuller picture of it. Obviously, privacy concerns stemming from the large amount of cameras around an aquatic facility, and also there's some safety concerns with the possibility of over-reliance on technology, changes to our lifeguard service. Not saying that that will necessarily happen, but these are the sort of things that will come out in a proper debate that we get when we debate it at council separate to the budget, because I very much want to support the budget and the good work that we do at Stirling, but I don't think that something like this should hold it up.
Thank you. Councillor Lagan.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just add, I agree with those points. I agree with supporting the rest of the budget items. This really just asks for us to hold off a little on this and get a bit more information. There's a couple of questions that I would still like answered. I know the directors have given some quite detailed answers, but I note that some councils still have a couple of questions about oversight of the technology and the AI involved.
Thank you. Councillor Migdale.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'd like to thank my fellow councillors for showing concern for all the residents that use our leisure centres and swimming pools, and concern around their safety. But rest assured, we have all had access to the same information around this technology. To be very clear, there is no CCTV as we know it. There are simply images of blurred blobs. That is all this technology utilises. It is housed on site, and I'll ask through the Mayor to go to the officer, please, to explain whether facial recognition or body recognition occurs with this technology.
Mr Quirk.
Through you, Mr Mayor. So as I have confirmed through both the memo and the responses to Councillor Dudek, the system is based on information being stored on the local server. That information is anonymised, so it is for the purposes of identifying objects in the water that then alerts lifeguards through a smart watch. So it is not a CCTV system. It does not work based on facial recognition. Importantly, the detail that is being sought in terms of access and storage of data does go through a very stringent CIS security assessment process. That risk analysis has indeed been completed. The detail on the cameras to be installed has been provided last week to Council, and the cost of the system is in the mid-year budget review pack. So from an officer perspective, whilst of course if Council resolves for a separate report, we will certainly do that. All of the information that is being sought through this recommendation has already been provided to Council. We will simply put it in a Council report and present it again.
Councillor Mcdowell.
And thank you for that. So we have the ability, and what we are looking at in this system here is nothing more than an insurance policy that should any object stay still in a swimming pool for 30 seconds or more, which usually indicates drowning or duress, there will be a buzz on a lifeguard's watch. Urgent, emergency, with where to look. This is a larger swimming pool than we've had certainly at Terry Tyzack Aquatic Centre. What we have the ability to do now, if we accept this as a line item in the budget, is ensure this technology is implemented from the first day this pool is open, from the first day. So should we push this back, we have all had equal access to all of the questions and information that has been asked of us this evening. This is nothing more than an alarm system, if you will. There are no cameras in the water, none. We already have CCTV at this facility, and for the information of councillors, CCTV at another leisure centre has been utilised in the past through a court process. This is what we do in our facilities. We make sure that everybody who joins us is safe and okay. Safe and okay. No faces, no storing of images for whatever reasons. This is about mitigating risk in a swimming pool environment. As City of Stirling welcomes hundreds of thousands of people every year, we do not know where they learnt to swim.
Councillor, I'm going to get you to get
swim at Terry
back on
Tyzack.
track.
My daughter learnt to swim at Terry Tyzack, and I can tell you
this
now,
isn't a swimming item, so let's get back on track.
I understand that, Mr Mayor, but I actually did almost drown when I was 3, and perhaps if this technology existed, I would have been a lot safer. I know our residents will be safer with this technology implemented. I 100% support this technology. There is nothing untoward going on here, and I thank our officers for doing their due diligence and ensuring we have this technology to increase the safety of our residents. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. I'm actually worried about swimming. I shouldn't make light of this, but I'm worried about swimming in the pool. I didn't realise it picked up inactivity after 30 seconds, because that'd get me at the end of every lap. Councillor Kristovich, I've got you next.
Thank you very much. Look, I just want to ask a couple of quick questions. I mean, this is obviously just asking for a report based on pieces of information that we've been given over the last few weeks. So the question I've got is, by putting it all together in one report, this doesn't seem to stop the process going ahead or for this being implemented, and it doesn't seem to be making anything other than maybe officers requiring to consolidate everything and just present it to council for information. Is that correct?
Mr Quirk?
Through you, Mr Mayor, yes, certainly, as I say, if this is a resolution of council, preparing a report will be quite simple because we do have all this information to hand.
Yeah, and it doesn't change what we're doing and when we're doing it.
Through you, Mr Mayor, the key reason why we did put this through mid-year budget review rather than waiting is because we are trying to align it with the completion of the outdoor pool redevelopment works. So because it is a large body of water and there are some extra risks associated with it, our preference is to have this technology in place when the pool opens rather than having a period of time where there'll be a lag. We thought we could avoid that by listing this through mid-year budget review.
Just a further question, but I don't see how this would lag the process, because all it's asking for is a report on consolidating all that information and presenting it to council. It's not saying defer, don't do, don't progress, don't do exactly the system you're having. Am I reading this wrong?
Mr Quirk, can you give us an idea on the timing? Is what you're talking about is say in 2 weeks' time, if a report was to come to council, is that holding it up?
Through you, Mr Mayor, we have been doing preparatory work behind the scenes. So probably the key element for me is the proposed amendment says a final decision on whether to proceed. So we would pause all procurement processes until we do get that council resolution, and I think that is proper. So whether that's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, until we get a report to council, there'll be no further work on the link site system.
Well, the question I'd then ask, I suppose, is for the mover, whether he'd be interested in removing that last bit for a final decision on whether to proceed out of that motion, so that we get that report, we have that information, because based on what I heard on the Deputy Mayor, I can't see,
So I wouldn't be comfortable in him removing that and I'll tell you why.
Yep.
The reason is, if he removes that, it effectively is just a briefing note that can come any time.
Yes.
And I think the intent of this, understanding Councillor Dudak, is he does want to understand the risk analysis and those things before it does proceed. Tell me if I'm correct. Yeah.
All right, I'll leave it at that, thank you.
Okay, is anyone else who's indicating? Councillor Fronte?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, look, I'm supportive of moving forward on this technology. The reason why I don't have any issues with risk is because I believe that, even if it saves one person's life, that pool is going to be a lot larger than what it used to be. And I think any technology that assists in assisting and prevent drownings is a good system that I'd invest in, regardless of the technology. It's not a camera, it's software. So I'm going to be supporting it this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Ree.
Yes, I think people need to understand it's not a camera, it's just software. So I think that's the difference, and maybe it could have been written up a little bit more like that so people wouldn't get so worried. I don't have an objection to that at all. I think it's a good idea. I'd ask for each of the items to be held done separately, please.
But we're just dealing with the amendment.
I know, but I'm just
Point of order, Mr
saying
Mayor,
that.
just a question through you. The councillor suggested there were no cameras.
Yeah, I
We've
might get
already been
clarification.
informed there are cameras.
Sure, I might get clarification. It's more than just software. There are cameras, sensors. Mr Quirk.
Through you, Mr Mayor. So yes, there's two separate elements to this. So there is the computer hardware that we need to put in, so server, conduits, and there is cameras. LinkSight is the technology, so the AI software that picks up the information from the cameras and then converts that to that alert system that is then communicated through the smart watches. So a subtle difference, but LinkSight is the technology. Most of the cost that is listed in mid-year budget review is actually for infrastructure, including cameras, to support the LinkSight technology.
Point of clarification, cameras insinuates that there are photo images of people. Can you clarify that, please, through the Mayor?
Mr Quirk.
Through you, Mr Mayor, there's no other way to say that there are cameras capturing the information. The difference between CCTV, which captures information for the purposes of identifying an individual and what they may have been up to, that is not what this technology does. So it picks up the objects in the water and then it uses AI to convert that to an object that either has or hasn't moved. So it is a camera. There's no way of steering away from that, but its function is very different to a CCTV camera, which is all about identifying individuals.
Councillor Ree.
Thank you. As I was saying, I think it might have been clarification. An example could have been if someone loses their bikini top and it goes down to the bottom, the sensor picks it up, but doesn't pick up what colour it is or what size. So a little example would have been good. With regard to the sustainability officer position, I was a bit confused by that.
Sorry, we're not debating that. We are debating the amendment.
Well, I did
So-
ask if they would all be separately, so when it comes back...
No,
we could
you can't
talk.
even talk about that. Let's deal with the amendment. Once we go back to the main item, we can talk about all the other stuff.
Well, as I said, I think it's a good idea and safety is important, but I think it just needed to be written up a little bit different when it comes into the minutes, if it can be written up so people understand it's not something inappropriate.
Thank you. Councillor Hatton?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just two questions, maybe three, but probably two. Through you, Mr Mayor, to the officer. The term object, if you make that object a person, then you'll get an image. I'm asking, would the image be CCTV type image of that person in full body detail?
Mr Quirk?
Just to confirm, it's the technology that is picking up the image, not a person. So that the technology is identifying an object in the water. Generally, that will be a person. The AI then identifies that object, whether doesn't matter what the object is. If that doesn't move over a period of time, then an alert is sent. So it's almost irrelevant what the object is. The AI is the technology picking up whatever the camera picks up and then converting that to an alert system.
So, just in response to that, so the object, a person, let's say it's a person.
Councillors, thanks.
So the object is not viewed until that object becomes still. Is that right?
Mr Quirk?
So the cameras are permanently looking at the pool. The AI, so the LinkSight technology, only picks up the object and it's either movement or lack of movement. The lifeguards do not see any of the footage. The lifeguard on pool deck simply gets a buzz in their smartwatch and then they decide that they then need to respond. I must say, some of the technology, there will be many false positives. It may indeed just be a very slow swimmer or someone who has decided to float on top of the pool. We see false positives as a positive thing because it actually means our lifeguards will be always activated by an alert. So it's that extra level of lifeguard protection. It doesn't replace lifeguards themselves.
Councillor Hatton?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. So the way it is at the moment, there's screens within the side of the pool that are viewed outside of the pool and interior and exterior. Within the pool, in the actual pool, in the water, there's going to be cameras in the water. No. Correct?
No.
Through Mr Chair, no.
Councillor Hatton?
Yeah, look, I'm not going to ask another question, but I'm a little bit confused, a little bit more clear, but still confused, and that's why I'm interested in this alt rec, or this added.
We must be getting closer to this debate. Councillor Proud?
My understanding is it's going to be a mass, like a shadow.
We've been through this.
Well, people seem to be seeing bodies in the water. We're talking a mass or a shadow, like an X-ray, and it either it remains stagnant or it's moving.
Councillors, if we're going over the same ground here, I might go to... there was significant debate at committee about this, and I might just go now to Councillor Dudak to close his amendment debate.
Thank you. Based on the confusion of councillors, I think it's only appropriate that we do separate this from the budget and take it to a future council meeting to discuss. Just to clarify, CCTV cameras are used, and I think this should be made very clear. CCTV cameras are used. It doesn't blur the face. LinkSight is different. The AI technology that monitors it is much different, and how much data the LinkSight company can access on their own servers, I think, should come to the report and be provided to councillors. But I think the amount of confusion on whether or not CCTV is actually used and able to be accessed by us is the reason why it needs to be separated from the budget. So I don't need to vote against the budget. I can support the other work that the City of Stirling do. We can discuss this at a later debate with more information in front of us.
Thank you. So with that, just to be really clear, we are now going to vote not on the budget. We are voting on Councillor Dudak's amendment that we remove the link site. Well, we effectively have a report on link site come to council before it proceeds. But basically remove it from tonight's motion on budget. Right? Okay. Thank you, councillors. That motion is carried. So this is the vote for the amendment. So councillors Dudak, Giudice, Hatton, Kristovich, Laganolo, Papard, Ree and Thornton voted to put the amendment in. Councillor Criado, Ferrante, Migdal, Perkoff, Proud and myself voted to not have the amendment in. The amendment is in. The amendment now forms part of the substantive motion. Councillors, I will seek advice from Ms Hawkins on Councillor Ree's previous request, because I'm assuming it was about this motion, whether it can be separated. I don't know if it can, because it is a mid-year budget review and everything could be reliant on each other. But I will seek advice, because there may be possible, seeing as there was an amendment tonight on number 1, for example. So, Ms Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. With regards to the recommendations, the first 3 would need to go together because they are interrelated. The others can be put separately.
Councillor Ree, can you give me an indication of why you want to separate? I'm just trying to, because I'd rather just put this all as one. So if you can tell me what your actual reason is, then we can try to address that reason.
Well, I think number 3 definitely could be separated out because it approves the transfer of the funds, right? You don't transfer the funds, you're still adopting the original budget. When you've got number 2, you've got the amendments. Which amendments? The above amendment and now the below amendment.
All you're saying at the moment is you just want to be difficult. If you've got a reason to separate these, like why would you not want to approve a transfer of additional funds?
Well, I'm just saying number 2 doesn't make sense. Number 1,
no.
where is the if one person, one sustainability officer only gets paid $17,000 a year, and why didn't we have it validated of why they are moving? I can't imagine.
It was extensively discussed at the committee meeting.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that there are other people that aren't at that FTE that have actually, we've changed quite a few things that I read in the budget. So I'm just saying, why is that one singled out?
Because it was extensively debated at committee. It was a partial payment and it was relying on offset of marketing funds, and the sustainability officer hadn't been put before council previously where the other staff movements had. So,
Sustainability officers are there, and the one I would have...
I think you need to take this one offline because we're not going to resolve this tonight. Councillors, I will keep these all together. I think it's been debated heavily at committee and I think it's dangerous to start messing with Ms Hawkins' paperwork. So I certainly haven't got the confidence to do that. So I will move Deputy Mayor Migdal, seconded Councillor Proud. I will put the mid-year budget review. Thank you, councillors. And that motion is carried with Councillor Ree voting against the mid-year budget review. We now go back to the balance of reports, I believe we're at. So, Councillor Perkov, as chair of the committee, if you could move the balance of reports.
Finally, Mayor, and I so move the balance of Community Resource Committee reports.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Proud has thrown the hand up. I will put the balance of reports. I think we're just missing one. If we can have Councillor Kristovich. Thank you. That is unanimous. Members of the gallery, those who are still here and those members who are watching at home, please note the rest of the Community and Resource Committee items have now been adopted by exception resolution. I will particularly note, I know there is someone in the gallery who was keen to see the Balga Neighbourhood Greening Program, so that has been passed. That was passed as per the committee recommendation. You're next to Pete Mullins, he'll be able to explain it all to you. Thanks. Thank you. We will now move on to item 13, which is reports in consideration, section 4.24 of the Meeting Procedures Local Law. We have Neil 14, notice of motion for consideration. We have a notice of motion from Deputy Mayor Suzanne Migdale, signage at Medham's Pool. Councillor Migdale, your motion.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, and I appreciate the suggested alternative recommendation from officers in saying that the City of Stirling doesn't have jurisdiction over the coastal reefs, though most people who access the coastal reefs do access it from the City of Stirling. So I'm still going to move the notice of motion that I have raised, please.
All right, so Councillor Migdale has moved her original recommendation that a sign be erected at Medham's Pool requesting visitors to refrain. Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Thornton, is there anyone opposed? Councillor Kristovich. Councillor Migdale.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. So basically we have a reef at Medham's for anyone who's been there, and people are often jumping on it, as are kids. It is getting broken and damaged. It's not something we can pay to repair. It's not something we can do anything about. Once it's broken, it's broken. I can't see any harm in putting a small sign at the ramp as one heads down to Medham's Pool saying, please don't jump on the reef, or please take care when walking on the reef, because jumping up and down on it and ruining our natural environment, I just feel is not the best thing to do. So there you have it.
Councillor Thornton.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. As we know, coral reefs are a living entity, and when you walk on them, even wearing sunscreen can damage them, certain sunscreens. And actually it's very common around the world, I know in California, that they do have signs informing people, please do not walk on the reef, because it damages and kills off the coral reef. So I actually support this notice of motion. I think it's a really good one. We often have signage for, our fishing lines, be mindful of, putting your fishing line in the bin. Why can't we have something like this?
I haven't seen one of those, Councillor.
What? No.
The fishing lines in a bin sign.
No, you do have, yeah, don't put...
Oh, I've been looking for a bit, but I haven't seen one of those.
I will send one to you.
Your point taken. Councillor Kristovich.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Look, I would be supporting the alternative recommendation on this one, and a couple of reasons. One, firstly, signage along the coastline. I've spent the last 2 years getting rid of signage across the coastline because we've been littered with signs. And we introduced those bend signs, and on those bend signs, everything's on there. Don't walk on the rocks, snakes, whatever you name it, dogs, etc. So it's all in one sign, and signs are visual pollution, firstly. Secondly, this is not the reef is there, so I'm not sure. A small sign saying don't walk on the reef, and the reef in Medham's Pool is everywhere. So as soon as you jump in the water, you're pretty much stepping on the reef within the first couple of metres, depending on whether you go left or right or up or down. So I'm not sure whether we're going to cordon it off, what we're going to do here, but we have no jurisdiction. We won't do anything. A small sign means nothing. The alternative talks about liaising with the department, getting Facebook posts out there, getting material out there, educating people. It's about doing some effective strategies. I can guarantee you nobody will look at this sign from a don't walk on the reef perspective, but everybody will look at it as a, oh my God, there's another sign here polluting our beaches. So I understand the intent. I don't think it will achieve anything other than visual pollution. And if people do walk on the reef, what are we going to do about it? Nothing. And there's no education campaign, there's no Facebook post, there's no strategy, there's nothing. So rather than doing everything, we're going to stick up a sign, which no one's going to read. And I can tell you that's for a fact. And, and people on the...
Point of order, Mr Mayor.
What's your point of order, Councillor?
Point of order is that I don't think the councillor can tell us as a fact.
Wait, please, sit down. Stand up. What's your point of order?
I think the councillor is saying that something is a fact when the councillor, I would challenge, does not know that to be a fact.
Thank you. That's not a point of order. Councillor, continue. He's just debating.
Yes, and so from my experience walking along the coast, we've had lots of signs, and I can guarantee you a lot of people are contradicting those signs. They're not following them in a lot of cases. So, look, I understand the intent. I think we do need to have an education campaign, but, you know, realistically, it's not our ambit. We shouldn't be going into state and federal government territory. We should be trying to talk to the department about education. I think that's a much more intelligent way to go, personally, than a sign. And I know the community doesn't want to see the sign there, and I know most of them do the right thing. And when abalone season occurs, thousands of people walk on the reef. Now, the damage caused then, as opposed to a couple of, you know, kids or elderly people who swim at Adams Pool, because mostly it's elderly and young children that swim there. I guarantee you most of them don't go walking over the reef. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Councillor Hatton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a question. Would the signs need to be in several languages and be bigger?
I don't think that has been considered. I will. Who's the signage expert on this one?
45 languages.
Mr Murphy, can we just have a bit? Just in.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I don't consider myself a signage expert, but I'll do my best. I don't think we put it in a different language. We do, you know, all the languages there are in English, and it would be a sort of standard size sign. Councillor Kristovic is right. We've been taking some of the odd signs away. There's a lot of advisory signage we've been removing. But, you know, totally understand the intent of the notice of motion, and we're very supportive of that intent. It's just the issue of the signage that is the reason for the alternative rec.
Councillor Papard.
Chair, Mayor. Could I just ask a question of perhaps the city officers or the directors through you, Mr Mayor? Just the signage at the top of the car park. Most beaches have some signage about the conditions of the beach or what rules you should abide by. What can we see up at the beach at the top right now? Is there something warning us about the reefs at this point at all?
Mr Murphy, is there something about the rocks or the reef on the bend sign that is currently there?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I need to check. There's so many signs up and down the coast. I'm not sure exactly what's at that beach, so I couldn't answer honestly.
If it's not on the bend sign, can it be put on the bend sign, Mr Murphy?
Through you, Mr Mayor, that is in a poll, and we could add it to that poll.
Councillor Papard.
That was all. I just wanted to have that answered. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to discuss? Councillor Dudek?
Yeah, personally, if it can be added to the existing sign, I don't see a problem with it. Something that, as you do pass, allows you to see, to be mindful of walking on the reef, and especially you know, if it doesn't need to erect a new sign and it can be added to the current signs we have there, I don't see any issue.
Thank you. All right, councillors, we will go back. There's no one else who wants to debate this. We'll go back to Councillor Migdale. Noticing, so.
Mr Mayor, I would be more than content if the messaging could be added to an existing sign, but there is no sign there. Henceforth, my notice of motion asking for something to be there. There's no sign there.
There is. There has to be a bend sign there.
Look, there is no sign referring to a reef, certainly, and I was there last week. So if there is a sign there, and if it is possible to add to the sign, please don't jump on the reef or be careful.
So I'll be really
I'm
clear.
happy with that.
So at the top of every walkway, there's a bend sign. It's an identification number.
Right.
Beach identification number.
Right.
It's on that. It has no dogs, no snorkeling.
Ah, okay.
No fishing.
But no
don't trip over
no
a fishing
jumping on
line
the
or something.
reef.
Councillor Thornton said.
On the reef.
And so it's got those things with a circle on them.
Right.
If you would like it added on as no walking on the rocks or no walking on reef, onto that.
I would be more than happy. I certainly did not take out my mobile phone and go onto Facebook as I was walking down to Medham's Pool. So whilst I love the idea of our state government embracing this messaging, you know, let's be honest, when you're there, you look in front of you.
Can I ask you if you'd like to amend your motion to say that?
Happy to. Happy to.
So that notification be added to the BEN sign, capital BEN, requesting visitors to refrain from walking on the reef, And if Councillor Thornton's happy with seconding that, with from Walking on the Reef at Madam's Pool. Then I can check with Councillor Kristovich if he's happy to withdraw his opposition to that, because I don't think that was the intent.
Yeah, no, that's much better because, like I said, I don't want more signs.
And we can call it an early night. Good. Okay. Okay, councillors. All right, so I will now put that to the vote, that it be added to the ban sign. Well done. That is unanimous, noting that Councillor Ree has left the meeting at the end of the last item. I'll now go to item 15. Councillors, do you have any notice of motions for this evening? Councillor Lagan?
I sent it through, but I can read it out. So mine is that a report be presented to council noting what percentage of carbon offset can be attributed to the City Million Tree program and the Urban Canopy program, and that report includes details of how the city reports the offset gains.
Thank you. And the next one, I think I saw Councillor Ferrante.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
These
Look
will be
forward to that a report be presented to council for the possible location of a men's shed in the suburb of Menoria, Coolbinia, Mount Lawley. The reason, a large percentage of lifestyle villages are located in that vicinity, and I think it should be a valued addition to that area.
Thank you. Any other? Councillor Kristovich?
Thank you very much. Mine is that the Mayor writes to the Main Roads WA to request consideration of treatments to address road safety concerns at the intersection of Marmion Avenue and Beach Road West, Waterman's Bay.
Thank you. I notice a theme here. You're just like giving me extra work. Are there any other notice of motions for consideration? No. 16, questions by members of which due notice has been given. I've got nil. No new business of an urgent nature. Councillors, we now have item 18, which is matters behind closed doors. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Move Councillor Lagan, seconded Councillor Papard. Just a show of hands to go behind closed doors. That is unanimous. Those members of the gallery who are still here and the viewers at home, just letting you know, we now have to deal with a lease for food and beverage operator, which unfortunately for you is behind closed doors, so you won't see it. We will open the meeting after this, but note that there is nothing to continue after this, so it's the last item on the agenda. So if you do choose to leave, good night and thank you for your attendance. Go to 19, which is closure of the meeting. To those, we'll just give a second to see if anyone does come back inside. We're now streaming again to viewers at home. Is anyone coming back in? No, in that case, I will move to closure of the meeting at 8:36 p.m. Thank you to those viewers at home who've switched back on, and wish you good night, and thank you to councillors.